What's going on, everybody? I'm Jiffy Nano, and in this video I'm going to showcase a super powerful Amara build that requires no DLC gear but can still solo the Scaled Mayhem 4 takedown with ease. So I was reading the comments on my Moe's video that has absolutely blown up thanks to all of you guys, so first off, thank you, and if you want to see more builds, guides, and other shooter and loot related stuff, be sure to subscribe and click that bell, because YouTube shows me that over 75% of you aren't subscribed yet, and I'm super excited to make more content for you guys. But a lot of your comments were saying that you weren't too happy with the fact that I made a build based around DLC gear, so the first part of this build will be all about vanilla Borderlands 3 stuff. No expansion gear, no holiday event gear, no takedown exclusive gear. At the end, I'll give some recommendations for non-vanilla gear for the people who have the DLCs. I also tested and ran through everything on Mayhem 4 and this build did great on everything. Now to answer the few people who might be asking about true takedown mode. So, true takedown mode, you need absolutely god roll stuff, and honestly I don't think it's worth the effort or stress. Besides, the players that I'm trying to help here aren't even thinking about true takedown mode anyway, so I chose to focus on normal mode. Okay, so right into the skill overview. We're going all the way down the Mystical Assault tree, and then grabbing Lifesteal from the Fist of the Elements tree. This is a rush stacks based build, so we will have a few things to talk about here, but first the most confusing part of the build. Our action skill. So we're using Ties That Bind and Stillness of Mind. Not very flashy, I know, but it's the easiest way to get high damage without loads of specific annoyance. What Ties That Bind does is when you phase grasp an enemy, it creates links to enemies close to it, and damage dealt to the enemy that's grasped is shared between all linked enemies. Normally this is only 35% of damage dealt, but we're utilizing some skills to make the linked targets take more damage than the one we're shooting. Another YouTuber by the name of Z Karma made a video explaining this in detail, so if you want to see that, I'll leave a link in the description, but the long and short is that all the damage multipliers, such as elemental damage, strengths, and weaknesses, the do harm skill, the tempest skill, and bonus damage annoyance for both weapons and shields, you can stack so much bonus damage, the linked targets end up taking way more damage than the enemy that you actually grasp does. To take advantage of this, you have to adopt a weird, unintuitive playstyle when it comes to picking targets to grasp. To deal the most damage to something, you actually don't want to grasp it at all. You want to grasp something else near it so it gets linked and shoot that instead. It's weird and kind of confusing, but just try to remember that you don't want to phase grasp the primary target, you want to phase grasp a secondary target and link the primary target to them. Now that that explanation's out of the way, let's go over the Mystical Assault tree first. 5 points into do harm. This is where a lot of your damage comes from. If you see in the gameplay, I'm phase grasping the ground a bunch. I'm trying to build do harm stacks. You get these stacks by consuming all your rush stacks by using your action skill. We're using the Phase-Zerker class mod, which gives us max rush stacks when we use our action skill, so by phase grasping the ground we get 25 stacks of do harm each time, which maxes out at 99, which gives our Ties That Bind a 584% damage boost. So to recap, our Phase-Zerker class mod gives us rush stacks when we use our action skill. Using our action skill turns those rush stacks into do harm stacks, and do harm stacks gives our Ties That Bind damage boost. So phase grasp the ground a bunch before you go into fights. 1 point into Violent Tapestry. This lets you get rush stacks by dealing status effects, makes it a little easier to keep your rush stacks during prolonged fights. 5 points into Alacrity. This increases your reload by 2% for each rush stack that we have, and 3% after using our action skill, so we should be at max rush stacks all the time, so reloads should be super fast all the time. 5 points into Restless, 25% increased cooldown rate. This makes the downtime between our grasps really short, close to 5 or 6 seconds. 3 points into Laid Bare. Enemies damaged by our action skill take 25% more damage for 8 seconds, and enemies linked by Ties That Bind count as being damaged by our action skill, which more damage for Ties That Bind enemies. 3 points into Wrath, which gives us 20% more gun damage flat, and an additional 20% after using our action skill for a total of 40% more gun damage. 3 points into Awakening, which increases the effectiveness of our rush stacks by 30%, more damage from do harm, and more reload speed. 1 point each into both From Rest and Remnant. From Rest gives you 21% faster weapon charge speed, which is nice for the weapons that we're using, and Remnant creates an orb when killing enemies that deals overkill damage. I've seen Remnant kill bosses on its own in the right situation, so it's a decent investment. Last, we take Avatar. This lets you cast your action skill twice before it has to go on cooldown, and gives you 10 more rush stacks. Now on to the Fist of the Elements tree. Well, we're going to be taking a lot more common skills in this tree, so there's going to be less explanation here. So 5 points into Anima. This makes your dots last longer and do more damage. 5 points in the Tempest. This increases your elemental damage. 5 into Wildfire. Gives your dots a chance to spread, but mostly get down to the next tier. 1 point into Dread, which gives you 15% more gun damage when grasping an enemy and reloads your gun if you kill that grasp enemy. 1 point into Deep Well, which increases your mag size for elemental weapons. 3 into Indiscriminate, giving your bullets a chance to ricochet into other enemies and has an increased chance when shooting a grasp enemy. And lastly, 3 into Sustainment, which gives you lifesteal when dealing elemental damage. Now on to the gear. Like I mentioned earlier, all the gear I used is from the base game and can be attained fairly easily. So we are using a Phaserker class mod, literally only for its ability to give us max rush stacks when we use our action skill, the 5 extra rush stacks it gives us, and the bonus damage it gives us for having rush stacks, which is 3%, not the 2 that it says. Which Z-Karma actually made a video on that as well. The passive bonuses I have on this are crap. You can do way better. Just get damage. Pretty much just damage. And if I'm honest, I don't think any of the extra skill points that it can give you are even that helpful. We are also using a Transformer Shield, probably one of the best all-around shields in the game. This one has bonus cryo on action skill end, but the one I used in the footage didn't. You do want to shoot for bonus 50% elemental damage on action skill end for both the shield and the grenade because it affects the damage you deal to enemies linked with ties that bind. Any grenade works if it has elemental damage anointment. Its piss is good, the Stormfront, pick your poison. I don't even think I threw a grenade this whole takedown, so, just find one that has bonus elemental damage and you're good. So on to the artifact. You could probably get away with a victory rush, but personally I like the loaded dice. This reduces your max HP by 75%, increases your luck. I don't care about the luck, but for my playstyle, I find it easier to abuse the health gate system in Borderlands rather than run something like a victory rush. Health gate is a system in place that makes it impossible for enemies to one-shot you if you're over 50% HP. By lowering your health, it's easier to heal to over 50% HP from sustainment. Elemental Projector Prefix helps a lot here, but it's not needed since we're not proccing it ourselves. So my main mobbing guns in this were the Brainstormer and a Radiation Recursion. Really original, I know guys, thanks. Both of these shotguns do serious work for taking out groups of enemies, but suffer a bit when used on a single target, so try to avoid using them on bosses unless the boss has mobs that spawn in like Wotan. For Mayhem 3 and below, anointments are completely unnecessary, and even in Mayhem 4 they're not really needed. But if you're looking, bonus elemental damage on action skill end and 100% more damage on action skill end will be great for both of these guns. I also used various Cutsmans, mostly Shock and Corrosive for the Valkyries and the first part of Wotan. Once again, anointments aren't necessarily needed for these, but the 100% damage on action skill end can really send these over the top. Same with bonus 50% elemental damage for the next 2 magazines, and pretty much any bonus damage. Bonus damage is great on most of these guns, especially Cutsmans, because they hit multiple times. And last, you want a couple of Dictators. I only have a Cryo in here because I have terrible luck, but these are really good against single targets that are too small for the Cutsmans to hit multiple times, or for something like Wotan's Floating Half, which is too fast to reliably hit with the Cutsman. Other guns that are decent with this builds are the Rowan's Call, Lucian's Call, Queen's Call, King's Call, the Conference Call, lots of calls, and the Kill-O-the-Wisp. All these guns do great damage against big crowds of enemies, and the Conference Call is actually really good against Wotan because Wotan's massive. Now, if you have the DLCs, one of the first things I would add is an ion cannon. This rocket launcher is the ultimate oh shit button and is perfect for getting out of a fight for your life and just does ridiculous amounts of damage and can pretty much fit in every build. It's literally Borderlands 3's Norfleet and like the perfect oh shit button. Like, no questions asked. The Ion Laser, on the other hand, is an SMG that does really good single-target damage, and in my opinion is easier to find than the Dictator. This is one of the better SMGs from the new DLC, and people are sleeping on it still. It's really good, shoots orbs when you let go of the trigger. I've made a couple videos on it. I can put them in the cards. So yeah, go check that out too. Now, if you're lucky to have one, the Wedding Invitation Sniper pairs really well with this build, since grasp enemies are stationary and super easy to shoot, and linked enemies will be taking insane amounts of damage. The Wedding Invitation is ridiculous, the best sniper in the game, and I'm really unhappy that it's only for this week. And I really hope that Gearbox adds a boss or something that lets you get all of the seasonal event weapons, because a lot of them are really good, and it really sucks that they're only limited time. So yeah, say something, Gearbox. Gearbox, if you're ever listening, like seriously, give us a boss with all the stuff, please. So, let me know what you think of the build in the comments, and feel free to suggest other build ideas if you are on PC and want to give this build a shot, or just want the items on the save file. My save file is going to be in my Discord, link in the description. For you console players, I hope these items are easy enough to find, and good luck. Like I said, I purposely made this so the items weren't super hard to find, and they're all from the vanilla base game. So, if you enjoyed the video or found it informative, consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Now, if you want to see short guides on how to get some of the gear in Borderlands 3, check out this playlist right here. And if you want to see a Mo's build that was super easy to put together and, does everything in the game without too much of an issue, check out the playlist right here on the left. Thanks for watching. Y'all are badasses, and I'll see you guys in the next one.